What if I told you that a peaceful prayer session turned into an unimaginable showdown between life and death? In a small, secluded mosque, something extraordinary happened. Something that left even the most hardened skeptics speechless. Picture this: a venomous snake unleashed in the middle of worship, ready to strike. But what unfolded next defied all logic. The snake, instead of attacking, did something so shocking that it forced even the attackers to their knees. What was this divine miracle that turned fear into faith? Stay tuned, because this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. This miraculous event has caused a sensation across India. Hindus who witnessed this astonishing miracle right before their eyes were compelled to recite the Islamic Declaration of Faith. This video is rapidly going viral, and many non-Muslims, deeply moved by this miraculous event during prayer, have embraced Islam on the spot, believing in the divine intervention they witnessed. But before we proceed further, if you're new to our channel, please take a moment to subscribe and press the bell icon so you can stay updated with more informative videos like this one. Dear friends, it's no secret that anti-Muslim sentiments and hostility against Muslims in India are on the rise day by day. Extremist ideas of sectarianism and radicalism have been deeply embedded into the minds of people, particularly the youth, driving them to the dangerous path of fanaticism and hatred. In recent days, there's been a noticeable uptick in such violent incidents, but sadly, this is not something new. Over the years, countless such incidents have occurred where innocent Muslims have lost their lives, and what's truly shocking is the lack of response from the government. There are no strong condemnations, no official statements addressing these brutalities, leaving a grim silence around these horrors. One such disturbing event took place in Ujjain, Madhya Pradesh, where a Muslim merchant was forcibly captured and made to chant slogans of Jai Shri Ram, glory to Lord Ram. The threat was clear: if he wanted to continue doing business there, he had to comply with their demands. Though the police arrested the culprits and a case was filed, the pressing question remains: why has sectarian madness reached such alarming levels? Another horrific incident unfolded in Kanpur, Uttar Pradesh, where a Muslim rickshaw driver, who had just finished praying at the mosque, stepped outside only to find a group of hooligans vandalizing his rickshaw. When he tried to stop them, they mercilessly beat him in the middle of the street and falsely accused him of various crimes. It didn't end there. In some areas of Uttar Pradesh, Muslims are in a significant minority, with only 2 mosques in the entire region. Yet the extremist elements, now holding powerful positions, demolished these mosques and constructed temples and gurdwaras in their place. In one particular area, where only a single mosque remained, Hindus deliberately began worshipping cows right outside the mosque. Every time it was time for prayer, they would engage in loud singing and dancing outside to disrupt the sacred environment. Sometimes they would even throw cow dung, contaminating the pathways and making it difficult for the Muslims to access their place of worship. Being a minority, the Muslims' voices were drowned out by the larger, oppressive majority. During the call to prayer, azan, slogans of Jai Shri Ram and Jai Bole Nath were shouted at high volumes, trying to incite the Muslims into a reaction that could spark violence. Inside this embattled mosque lived a man named Alim. His entire day was spent either reciting the Quran or performing voluntary prayers, nawafil. Whenever he heard the abusive chants or insults hurled by the Hindus outside, he would raise his voice and start reciting the Quran even louder. Over time, the harassment from these extremists intensified. They began entering the mosque, physically assaulting the worshippers. One particular day, while a few worshippers were engaged in prayer, 5 to 6 Hindus barged into the mosque, chanting Jai Shri Ram and throwing garbage and filth at the worshippers. Despite these disruptions, the worshippers did not break their prayer. Angered by this, the attackers dragged them by their hair out of the mosque and forced them to bow before a cow and chant their slogans. This incident instilled fear in many Muslims, to the point where most stopped coming to the mosque. Only 4 or 5 people continued their prayers, unaffected by the threats, their faith in Allah unwavering. Witnessing their unshakable resolve, the local Hindus started hatching even more sinister plans. They were determined to empty the mosque and build a temple in its place. These extremists subjected the remaining Muslims to further harassment, beating them and throwing filth at them. Yet the believers remained steadfast, never faltering in their faith. Then one day, during the noon Zuhr prayer, Alim led 3 other Muslims in prayer. A group of Hindus, laughing and making noise, entered the mosque with a sinister agenda. One of them stepped forward, opened a basket, and placed it on the ground. Moments later, a 5-foot-long venomous snake emerged, hissing and slithering towards the worshippers. 2 of the worshippers, terrified by the sight, screamed and fled the mosque. The Hindus laughed loudly, mocking them. However, Alim and 1 other worshipper remained firm, continuing their prayer as the snake moved closer. Alim raised his voice and continued reciting the prayer aloud. Then something miraculous happened, something that left everyone stunned. Instead of biting the worshippers, the venomous snake bowed its head and sat quietly at a distance. Alim and the other worshipper completed their prayer undisturbed, and when they finished, they stood up calmly. The sight shocked the Hindus. How could this be possible? A deadly snake, which should have attacked, instead became peaceful. 2 of the Hindu boys, enraged by the scene, moved forward to kill the snake. But as soon as they tried to touch it, the snake struck them. Its venom was so potent that within 2 minutes, both boys were writhing in pain and died right there. Upon witnessing this terrifying event, the 2 worshippers began crying, praising Allah, shouting, "Allahu Akbar!" God is great. Their hearts were illuminated by the sheer power of the miracle they had just witnessed. Meanwhile, the Hindus who saw this fell to the ground, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. Right there in the mosque, several of them recited the Islamic declaration of faith and embraced Islam. This miraculous news spread like wildfire across Uttar Pradesh and then throughout India. People came from far and wide to hear the story firsthand from the Hindus who had witnessed it. Some tried to suppress the news, fearing that such miracles could undermine their faith. But it was too late. The truth had spread. The mosque was once again full of worshippers. Many Hindus, after converting to Islam, began learning how to read the Quran under Alim's guidance and started performing prayers regularly. Indeed, Allah guides whom He wills, and when He chooses to grant someone guidance, human logic and understanding pale in comparison to His divine wisdom. He tests, but when He grants His favor, it leaves people in awe, realizing that only He can turn hearts and direct people toward the truth.